when this opportunity to lead the Russell Center came about. There are very few times in life where you get to be a part of something that you know will outlast you.
Yeah.
And there are rare times where you get to be a part of something that could potentially change the course of history. And to find myself in one of those positions, in one of those forks in the road, I had to choose destiny. You know, you've heard me say it before, plant seeds that will grow trees whose shade you may never sit under.
Hey, we are here today again with From Idea to Invention, a podcast. No. What did I say? I did it right.
Yeah, I did
from
to
idea,
invention,
from idea,
podcast.
from idea to invention, a podcast for small businesses and inventors. And this is my lovely husband.
What up, y'all?
Say your name.
Garrett.
Yeah, just in case.
Just in case they forgot.
Right, because even so, it's two chocolate brothers. This
Garrett,
one belongs
the
to me.
girl.
All right.
Lash.
And we also have,
I'm
which
gonna
is
touch it before I'm done. I'm gonna.
You can't touch my man. Come on now.
That's wonderful. What a texture.
Midas.
What a texture.
This is Mr. James. Is James your God-given
Oh,
name?
yes, it is. But my grandfather was named James. My full name is James Mitchell Bailey. But my grandfather was James. My father was Mitchell. So I'm not quite a junior, but named after two men in my life.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome. Because they were like, James replied that he's not going to. I'm like,
James.
who is James?
Wait, who said that? What?
When
That's
you
what
first
we-
rescheduled,
Isaac's-
Oh,
right? I was
okay.
like, we never booked a James.
Yes, no, please call me Jay. That's one of my ways of understanding if we've ever met or not.
I got you.
If you call me James, I'm like,
right.
I don't think we've ever met. If you call me Jay,
I'm gonna
we're
have to
friends.
use that, but there's no short for Sita.
No,
No,
there's not.
it's just yeah,
see.
yeah. But if they do that, I'll be like, you don't know me like that.
Right.
You could go as C. Now, come on.
Who call? Only Carvel calls me C.
C,
His
then
best
I
friend,
call
yeah.
you C.
Yeah, you do.
Wow.
But let's get right.
She's like, who called you
That's
C?
awkward.
Right. Just,
I'm your husband.
right. Oops.
Wow.
So anyway,
Cut.
Fade to black. No,
Yeah, no doubt. I'm
Yes.
sorry to be so disruptive.
no,
Family.
that's
How
all
are
right.
y'all
That's
doing?
this is how we roll.
Oh, okay,
Yeah,
fine
it's
then.
really-
I feel
yeah,
comfortable.
Oh
then.
yeah.
So we invited Mr. Bailey here today because he came into our lives. When was the cyber stalking started a while back, but.
It's almost a year, hasn't it? Or-
Yes, it was because
Oh.
in Instagram world, because I
Okay.
remember it's on my feed now when we went to, you invited us to come down to RCIE and you were still very much like the bottom floor was still very rough.
Sure. Yeah.
So
I remember that.
we just had to have him come on and explain who he is and what he's doing and the vision for the it's not a program, the incubator. Is it like an incubator? What are we calling RCIE?
It's unspeakable.
Okay.
It's unnameable.
It's so much.
But yeah, it's a hub. It's a center. It's a movement.
Amen.
Yeah.
Ain't that the truth? So I think let's start out with his bio so we can
Oh,
get
well,
everybody to
let's.
exactly
Let's
know
start
who
with the
Mr.
bio.
Bailey is.
It's the short one, isn't it?
Yeah, kind of sort of. It will be.
Okay.
So,
You're like, I look, Alpharetta. I got
Right.
to
Yeah,
get
no
back
doubt, no
on the
doubt.
road.
well, Jay is committed to his living his personal motto: build as we climb. Change agent. He's a thought leader, entrepreneur, an emerging philanthropist. Mr. Bailey is dedicated his life to serving others. Jay has recently, now it's going on 2 years, was named CEO of the Russell Center of Innovation and Entrepreneurship, honoring the great legacy and visionary business leadership of Herman J. Russell, Sr. He will lead and development of the largest center in America, driven by impact, dedicated to empowering African American entrepreneurs and small business owners. In the facility that's over 50,000 square feet, designed to inspire ideas, create jobs, grow companies, and increase wealth in the community. A native and a diehard Georgia Bulldog,
Go Dogs. It's okay.
Jay has proven track record of success, recognized by 3 U.S. presidents for his leadership and community efforts, In 2012, Jay was one of 8 Americans honored at the White House as a champion of change, following in the footsteps of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. A National Point of Light Award recipient, Jay was also recognized as one of 10 most outstanding young people of Atlanta, honored with Presidential Lifetime Volunteer Service Award from the Obama administration, and officially named an amazing Atlantan by the city of Atlanta. Jay, a graduate of Leadership Georgia, Leadership Atlanta, and the Regional Leadership Institute, Jay was also named to both the Atlanta Business Chronicle and Georgia Trend magazine's 40 Under 40 Best and Brightest Leaders of the Future. He is a recipient of the coveted Whitney M. Young National Community Service Medallion and the Dr. Martin Luther King Drum Major for Service Award, as well as a New Leaders Council Fellow member, and a member of the fraternity Alpha Phi Alpha,
Yes.
and 100 Black Men of Atlanta. Jay and his lovely wife, Blaine Alexander.
Beautiful.
Oh,
Not
man.
lovely, not just lovely.
It's our
Just
anniversary.
Right,
today.
she's
That's
like
their
she's
anniversary
like a
today.
fountain of beauty. She's tall too.
Oh, I love it.
Yeah.
They both they live between Atlanta and Washington D.C. and Jay, as from a personal perspective, we always say that God plants people in your lives for a reason, and we are just so blessed and fortunate that God planted you in our life, because
I'll accept that. That's a blessing. Thank
you have truly, and in the short time that we've gotten to know each other and developed a relationship, you've become a friend, a mentor, and an inspiration. And we so truly appreciate everything that you've
Why
done.
are you trying to make me
for us.
cry?
Oh, this
I'm
is
not
but-
trying to
beautiful,
cry
man.
this
But
morning.
my thing is, it's always about giving folks their flowers while they're here. So
I'll
he
take that.
needs to understand that.
But I'm not trying to use tissue right this morning.
Excuse me.
Tito.
Come
So-
on, see?
So, y'all, that's our fabulous guest. Mr. Bailey is in
man.
the house.
Thank you so much, family. It's so good to be way out here. I would take someone that I love dearly to get me out to Alpharetta Roswell. I passed both signs on the way. I'm just saying. But 2 minutes.
So we really wanted to have you out to explain the vision that the Herman Russell Center is there, and what you plan, and what just everything about the center, and why entrepreneurs that are in this area need to be a part of the RCIE.
It's to really explain how we're moving forward, we got to talk a little bit about the past.
Okay.
Herman J. Russell was one of the most prolific entrepreneurs this city has ever produced. You got to think about a black man coming out of the Jim Crow South with a severe speech impediment. And in his 83 years of distance run, the brother was part owner of the Atlanta Hawks, brought professional hockey and soccer to Atlanta, built parks, restaurants, hotels, half of the city skyline, beer distributorships, created one of the largest airport concession companies in the country, hospitals, condos, and apartments across the country. At his best, he was the 4th largest black-owned business in the history of America. Just a powerful legacy that we're building on in the original building that he built brick by brick on the west side of Atlanta. And although he built eventually what became 54,000 square feet to run his company, he also built it to be a symbol to the community of what was possible. So when we talk about what we're doing at RCIE, it's not anything new.
Mm-hmm.
This is just a refresh of what Mr. Russell was doing 50 years ago, literally providing hope to communities, providing the resources to expand, to excel, a safe space to fail and to fly. And I know that we're on time, but as we get into what we do and why we do it, we'll certainly get into that next segment.
All right. Good. So,
That was a nice transition. There you go.
wasn't that a good transition?
With the wonderful, just that whole Barry White thing
Hey, man.
happening at the same
How you
time.
ain't making fun of me about his radio voice like you make fun of me?
Because you try really hard.
Oh, okay.
You try harder than
So his is just natural. Right,
right,
That's what you're trying to say.
right.
Yeah, no doubt, man. I get the voice, you get the hair.
Right.
That's how it works, man. You can't
Gonna
have it
grab
all.
my hair. That's all right, though.
Hey,
all
brother,
right.
I'm impressed.
Well, all right,
Lotion that
podcast
I'm
family.
using is not
as you have the comedy remedies of Mr. Bailey.
Hey, brother, hey, you got to laugh to stop from crying when you're so far from home. When do we come back from the segment? When the music stops?
Yeah, well, right, you'll know.
Okay.
So we're going to roll out of this segment and we'll come back and we'll jump into you telling us about Jay, the man, the husband, and the leader.
Sure, my man.
All right.
Let's get into
All
it.
right, we'll catch you on the other side, folks. See you. Hey, podcast family, this is Garrett and Sita here for Eye to Eye, sitting with our man, Mr. Jay Bailey.
Indeed.
Y'all heard it, didn't you?
C and G. Stop with the jokes, guys. Let's get to the
Okay.
content.
All right, back to serious.
So, as we were leaving the last segment, I brought up a statement of wanting to know, and I think our podcast listeners are going to want to know about Jay Bailey, the man, the husband, and the leader.
Sure.
Yeah, because he's thrice certified. I see Leadership of Georgia, Leadership Atlanta, Regional Leadership Institute. Can they stamp you with the leadership?
No, man, I just take
certification
those
anymore?
courses to try to act like I am, trying to become one. And, I think that, I've always heard that loss creates leaders. And those that eventually will inherit the earth and lead it forward, those are those that can effectively manage pain. And I think that those of us that have never really been flat on our back, I question if they've ever seen the sun. We take for granted walking upright, and very rarely do we look up.
Yeah.
But if you're flat on your back, you have no choice. So my story is one of ups and downs and wild rides. I started my first business at the age of 12. Bought my first house at 19. Made my first $1 million by the time I was 26. I did not have business role models. Nobody in my community had money like that, and didn't have anybody to kind of show me the way or how to build a business, especially how to keep a business. So my money role models that looked like me were on TV. So I lived that lifestyle of the baller lifestyle, the cars, the houses. Literally, I used to live in Alpharetta. It's called Johns Creek now, but Country Club of the South, old Southwick Pass. I'll never forget it. I was watching MTV Cribs and saw that Usher Raymond had a house in his neighborhood called Country Club of the South. And like an idiot, thought that's where ballers stay and that's where I needed to live, 10,000 square foot home. But when the market tanked and the bottom fell out, I didn't know how to ride the wave. I went from living in a 10,000 square foot home to literally sleeping in a 9x9 storage unit. That was my existence. Literally, there was a shout out to the LA Fitness that's still on La Vista Road. I used to walk there every day to act like I was working out, but I was there to take showers. It was in that 9x9 that I had this great epiphany about by the world standards, I had been successful.
Yeah.
The cars, the clothes, the houses, all that stuff. But I had zero significance. I had done nothing to put a dent in this world. I had done nothing to actually make someone's life better. So once I really committed myself to living a life of significance, everything started to turn around. I found myself going from there to being a part of a nonprofit organization, the first employee in the Southeast. But before I was done, Atlanta became the global headquarters for that organization. I had gone from like in a sub-basement of a building with a broken cell phone to the 40th floor of the 191 building. We were now a global organization. But even still, I knew that there was more that I could do.
Yeah.
We had just had one of the greatest events that I had ever hosted in my life. We had Bill Clinton, Fortune 100 CEOs from around the world, from around the country, and leaders from around the world. And so at about 2 a.m., I found myself in my very nice office, overlooking the city skyline of Atlanta. And I literally started to cry. I felt like I was still back in that 9x9 storage unit. Although I was an advisor to the president or going to the White House and sitting with CEOs and raising money and getting lots of accolades, all those things you just ran down, I was looking at a city that I was from, where the graduation rate for people that looked like me was 37%. Wow. I looked at an entire skyline from north to south, Buckhead to Bankhead. I don't see a single building that we owned or control. And in a city that was 54% African American, how could we have the population but no ownership? So I left. My wife and I started a private foundation, the Phoenix Leadership Foundation. One word mission statement: exposure. We're firm believers that the lack of exposure is the greatest contributing factor to poverty and a poverty mindset. But I didn't think that the world needed another corporate executive. We didn't need any more like nonprofit CEOs. We needed wealthy black people to actually start balancing out the equation. So I got into a logistics company. I knew I could be an entrepreneur. I had the kind of network where I thought I could build wealth with it and be successful. So I started on this logistics path. Probably come back again for sure because I never fully realized it until this opportunity came about. Today's my anniversary. But before we were married, when I left the last job, I made Blaine this really dramatic promise. We were down by the riverside holding hands, praying. Oh, it was literally like that. It was whatever this place is over here. But great park on the rock, river flowing, that I'd never get another job again, that I commit to this dream that we were living, that I commit to controlling our own destiny. But I had to break that promise. When this opportunity to lead the Russell Center came about, there are very few times in life where you get to be a part of something that will outlast you.
Yeah.
And there are rarer times where you get to be a part of something that could potentially change the course of history. And to find myself in one of those positions, in one of those forks in the road, I had to choose destiny. You've heard me say it before: plant seeds that will grow trees whose shade you may never sit under. And I saw this as an opportunity to plant the kind of seed that could absolutely affect generations yet unborn. And so with that, taking the opportunity to honor the legacy of one of the greatest that our nation has ever produced. Part of my story is that I used to steal my mom's car at 14 and drive around Southwest Atlanta because I didn't believe black people could live in beautiful houses like that. This is the guy that integrated the Chamber of Commerce. This is the guy who had a pool inside his house in the 40s, where young Dr. Martin Luther King and Ambassador Young used to swim and get tutored and mentored on how they wanted to change the world. 100 students get locked up in the student unrest. They literally call it Student Movement Boulevard now, directly across the street from Fair Street. 100 students get locked up. They make one phone call. One man bails them all out. But he was the guy that you would have counted out. You wouldn't have paid attention to him. Up until very close to when he died, he was driving a Ford Explorer and was running companies that eclipsed hundreds of millions of dollars in revenue. Just a powerful, humble spirit. And to have the opportunity to build on that legacy, I just could not pass up. Yeah, brother.
That's.
It's so interesting because it's so from an Illinoisan. Is that what we call ourselves?
Yep.
Looking in to Georgia and Atlanta. Mr. Russell was so opposite of what's typical of what you see Atlanta-wise. Because even now, we're just like, in all honesty, we had not heard of Herman Russell before we came here.
No, I believe it.
And the fact of how you've been educating us on him, and I'm not reading the book. It's got to come out. It's got to come out on
book is
Audible.
phenomenal.
Before.
Yeah, you got to read the book.
Yeah, he's reading the book. I'm
Gotta read
waiting
the
for
book.
Audible because of my dyslexia. But
Yeah, no doubt. I get it.
But just from what he's saying, the fact that people don't know about him
Sure.
just blows my mind.
And there are other stories. When you talked about what is RCIE, sure, it's a place, we paneled 1,500 entrepreneurs before we even really got started with this work, to really ask them about their greatest needs. I made a cash bet to a friend that access to capital would be number one.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't. The first answer was community. The second was accountability and mentorship. Third was capital. Fourth was a safe place to work. So as we start to develop our model around creating a workspace, a safe space for entrepreneurs to fail and fly, to be in a space where I can be vulnerable enough to ask a question and learn. That was priority number one. Yes, we're a part incubator, part accelerator because we want to help grow companies from where they are to where they want to be. But lastly, I want to be part museum. There are so many stories that are untold. I think, guys, the only difference between Bankhead and Buckhead, the south side of town and the north side of town, because every city's got a north and a south side of the tracks, is access, opportunity, and exposure. That's it.
Yeah.
Kids on the north side want to be doctors, lawyers, accountants, consultants, and run companies. Kids on the south side want to be rappers, athletes, and dope dealers. It's literally an equation of what they see. And it's hard to aspire to anything that you've never been inspired by. And so to have like the Russell Center there, sure, it's a resource and a tool to grow companies, to provide access and readiness, but it's also the place where, yes, that 19-year-old, that 7-year-old, that 23-year-old can be transformed when they walk in a space. They can start to see value in their own reflection again. They can literally have a transformative experience walking through the doors because now they are seeing what their future could be. When they run into you hosting a panel with Tristan Walker.
Yeah.
And they're in the back saying, well, wait a minute. I remember seeing that guy on TV, and my sister wears that product. And I can touch you,
Yeah.
and you're real,
Yeah.
and you have a story just like mine.
Yep.
That's the power that I can't put in a proposal. That's the power of community. And that's hopefully when we realize the power of what we're dealing with. It's not even just the 54,000 square feet. Mr. Russell's wisdom and vision, we own the 42 acres that surround our building.
That's still, I love it because when we pull up in the parking lot and you're like, I can touch Mercedes-Benz Stadium, and this is all land that a brown person owns. It's crazy.
It's crazy, and to be next door to the entire AUC, Morehouse, Clark, Spelman, Morris Brown, ITC, Morehouse School of Medicine. To my east, direct east, having Castleberry Hill, one of the largest concentrations of black businesses in the country. We have a real opportunity here to do something that's never been done in the history of our country, creating a district. It's hard, and when I talk about race, guys, it's not from an emotional place. I talk about it like an economist. You can't have a city where 54% of your population is African American, yet there are not many places where we celebrate our culture. There's a sense of belonging. Outside of individual homes and churches, where do African Americans have a sense of belonging?
Yeah.
And in a city where we lead the country in income inequality and economic immobility, the hard conversation is to say in the city of Atlanta, not talking about the outer suburbs, but there are no poor white neighborhoods. There are no failing Latino schools. There are no Asian ghettos. 100% of the demographic driving those deplorable statistics are black people. And if you want to create a strategy to grow the economy in the city of Atlanta without specifically focusing on the demographic most impacted, 71% of us are liquid asset poor. 37% of us have a net worth of zero. So when you speak of this image of what Atlanta is, Mr. Russell's more like what the earth of Atlanta used to be. What it's become, the cost of perception is killing our community. To have the look of success without actual success.
Exactly.
And the new poverty isn't a shack on the west side anymore. The new poverty is a 5-bedroom house, brick, 2 cars in the garage.
And a missing paycheck, and it's over.
But there you go.
What I want to talk about when we come back is the thing that really warms my heart is the fact that you and the center are not waiting for we're not waiting for an answer. We're going to get the answer. That we're owning the issues and acknowledging and speaking openly, just like we said. We're not going to just pretend like 37% of African Americans have a net worth. Yes, this is the issue, and we're going to address it, and we're going to own it,
Sure.
and we're going to try and fix it within ourselves, not ignoring all the other benefits that can come from other companies, but we're going to own it and claim it and fix it.
Amen.
And we also, in time with that, part of the conversation is also how do you change the mindset, right, of the community to understand that what you plant, you may not reap the rewards. You may not reap the rewards, but your legacy, your children.
Right.
Now that's a different thought process.
Absolutely.
Right? It goes from this immediacy that we're living in to, no, you got to think beyond what you're doing today, beyond the tip of your nose. And,
I love it.
Trying to change that mindset is...
We'll get into that when we come back, for sure.
All right.
You
want to take us out?
Right, I'll take you out.
Go ahead.
We're out. No. We'll be right back with Mr. James Bailey with From Eye to Eye.
Yeah, okay.
Shine.
Listen.
I got a puff up in my hair and it's clear.
It's
So
clear.
try not to interfere with the facts I'm about to share. People
Love it.
They love it cause there's nothing to compare. And when something does appear, it's not real, it's a fake, have no fear. And worse with dreads and worse with curly hair. You won't go through the wear and tear of using benzo. Yes, I swear you might just have a love affair. And I'm not saying that you should be well aware. The thing might end up in your thoughts and in your prayers.
Perfect ponytail, no stress, no pain, no holy grail. Tired of messing around with these bands, go take a hike, go hit the trail. The perfect ponytail, no stress, no pain, no holy grail. Tired of messing around with these bands, go take a hike, go hit the trail.
I want you to hear. Listen. If this one is clear. For all of you color people, we wanna see all that vibrant hair twinkle. Shine. Wake up, puff been done. This is the one who begun. The dreams that became the bronze in the brain, the change of the game, the company name.
The perfect ponytail, no stress, no pain, no holy grail. Tired of messing around with these bands, go take a hike, go hit the trail. The perfect ponytail, no stress, no pain, no holy grail. Tired of messing around with these bands, go take a hike, go hit the trail.
Love it.
Hey everybody, so we are back with From Idea to Invention with Mr. J, not James, because I do know him
Boom.
personally.
Thanks, C.
Right.
And we're going to talk about a little bit what I mentioned, and a little bit what Garrett mentioned about us owning as a people our issue and trying to trying to surpass and not continue to make the same mistakes, or realize, not even saying that they're mistakes,
Sure.
but realize this is where we're at and this is what we need to do differently so we don't continue down the same path.
Right. I think it has everything to do with culture and covenant. I'm most excited about RCIE around developing this community, this culture, and this covenant. And the curriculum in that equation is probably the least important. When you start to look at creating the norm, shifting the norm, you don't start defying the odds, you start actually changing the odds. And I even think that ties into your question around how do you start to change behaviors and thinking. I think some of the things that people first go to when they think about the walls that are created, the egos and a lot of the one-upsmanship and some of the Hollywood nature of things. Mr. Russell's legacy is one that's extremely humbling for people. So I don't care what kind of Rolls Royce you pull up in, whatever kind of Bentley you pull up in or helicopter you land in my parking lot. Literally, you didn't do what he did 50 years ago. So it's a good place when you start to talk about change behaviors, when you start talking about normalizing what success really is. You give me an opportunity to walk in, and although I don't have the Gucci and the Louis and the car outside, I still feel valued. And there are not a lot of places, if I don't have those accoutrements of success, then I walk in and I don't feel valued. So self-esteem, self-confidence, belief, those underpinnings of what real success looks like, those underpinnings of what things are, success looks like, if I don't have them, I don't feel valuable. To create a space where there's value in your presence, your ideas, you being the person and part of the community, if you give me permission to not wear a Louis belt, if you give me permission to think about generations yet unborn because I'm seeing you do it, if the three of us are living under a covenant that speaks to what is my commitment to myself, my family, and this thing that I'm trying to create, what is our collective commitment to this community that we're developing inside the walls of RCIE, and what is our collective obligation to the community that exists outside of these walls. And if we're all living under that covenant, you start to see behavioral change. And if you scale that from 100 entrepreneurs to 1,000, and that 1,000 starts to live under a new covenant,
it becomes normal.
There you go. So now from your following to your following to my following to the people that I impact to the people she touches, literally we take that covenant out, and it actually expands and is exponentially more powerful from that 1,000. I'm hoping that will, our little slice of the world, I'm not trying to boil the ocean. I'm not trying to change the planet. I'm really just trying to impact the 3 feet that surround me. And if we can do that and focus on that, I think we can see a difference.
Wow.
Okay. I think we will.
Hey,
It can't help but be.
That's a whole other conversation for a different podcast. We'll get into that though. That's actually a real point. I hope it comes out.
Maybe next spring.
Yeah.
You
No doubt.
Come on.
If I'm at Learjet or helicopter status, then maybe. I'm sure there's a private airport out here somewhere.
So we pride ourselves in the fact that this podcast is to get to those who are inventors, entrepreneurs, those who are thinking about trying to do something on their own.
And it came from us being asked so many questions from other people, just needing to be able to have a springboard. I mean, what is it called? Springboard?
Sounding board.
There you go. Sounding board to say, okay, I've gotten past this innate fear that I had.
Sure.
I just want to know, just tell me a little bit about what you've done. And being inundated. So we were like, how can we reach a wider audience to be able to give those tidbits? Because it's many of us have all the same questions.
Oh, yeah.
But just not that opportunity or that, to be able to ask it in a place where you feel comfortable, where you feel like you're not going to be judged.
Right.
So then when we joined RCIE, it was like, you know what, this is just this comes together so, melds so well. And
that's the thing, right? So given that you've had your past as an entrepreneurial mindset and direction, and given that almost 2 years from now, coming in February, you would have started with RCIE and started at the very beginning. Can you talk through how your entrepreneurial mindset has allowed you to successfully get from where you guys started to where you're at today? Because, see, some folks don't understand that just because you're Jay and you're the CEO, right? And they don't understand that you have some of the same issues.
Oh, all of the same issues
that they had. and so we want them to understand.
Sure.
How did you navigate?
Yeah, I mean, I think that I've never been afraid of failure, and to literally have gone from something to nothing.
Yeah.
What I have to be afraid of? I never let the perfect be the death of the good. When you talked about bringing you guys by, when you came by and there was dust on the ground and wires hanging from the ceiling, some people may say, "Oh, this is a dump." Well, I saw it like perfection. And let's live in where we are right now. I think that So many people see entrepreneurship or success through the lens of perfection. That I am not successful unless I am at level 10. And I don't value going from 1 to 2 to 2.25. Then taking 2 years to get from 2.25 to 2.3. That process is so very necessary. And I think when you start to talk about some of the societal pressures that come into play around what success is and some of the ways that we ingest information, similar to when I was a kid, my role models came from TV. That's not reality. But I based my life trajectory on these images that weren't real. And guess what? My outcomes were disastrous because it wasn't built on a strong foundation. You know, I think every entrepreneur, to your point and why you created this podcast, when we talked about community, there's so many of us that are along this road and we have no understanding of like the direction we should go. There's so much information and activity and all the stuff buzzing all over the place. How do I navigate it and try to pay my bills? Part of the excitement around RCIE is I want to bring the best resources in the country under one roof. All this activity, I want to concentrate it. I want to weaponize it and literally give a company a pathway based on what you need from where you are to where you want to go. No two companies are the same. Our program has to be different from, yes, we have a 6-week program, everybody enroll, and in 6 weeks you get a certificate. Now, some of those programs are fantastic, a lot of learning, but I believe in a continuum of engagement. Like literally you guys have been in business for how long?
6 years.
In 6 years. So you'd laugh at me if I told you that in 4 weeks or in 10 weeks, you could have learned everything you needed to know to be in business for 6 years. It's just not true. Even today, you still have questions and things that you don't know. So if we don't look at platforms to look at the life cycle of a business, a true continuum of engagement allows you to get the help you need when you need it for your specific business, while blending it with the best of community and covenant and accountability, where there are other
people
entrepreneurs.
You can touch.
Right.
Because that, I
It's
mean,
so
it,
true.
it,
Right.
it, and it gets to the point now where we get caught in our little bubbles. Even the situation that we were talking about in the car. We've been faced with, we've not been faced like it's tragedy. Another opportunity presented itself. Well, this is a step to like, oh shit, we don't know what to do. But the fact is, because like you said, we don't come from as a people, we do not come from, because of all from slavery, from civil rights, and everything else from the perspective of ownership.
Right.
And there's a reason why we cannot go to somebody in our family that owns a piece of property in the heart of New York or in the heart of Chicago that's able to lend us $1 million whenever we need to. That's all has been strategically planned up until this point. So we're not used to being able to have those resources. But now we're like, right now we have this situation. It's like, look, oh yeah, we can go to Jay at the RCIE and be like, this is what we're presented. This is what we've been presented with. This is a serious matter.
What's the best way
in
to
all honesty,
reverse it?
don't know how to navigate this.
Right.
To have somebody that, and it's not going to be like, well, I'll give you about a half hour of my time for $500 or a $10,000 retainer. You know what I mean? So we even have to condition ourselves to say, oh, we do have people we can go to.
And having the institution carry the weight of the connectivity, right? So even if it's not me or somebody that's in the building at the moment, knowing that there are people that we can touch that have done it at every level and at every scale, that we can make the connection. Again, back to access, opportunity, and exposure. It is literally giving you the access to those people that can help you make better decisions about where your path is going to go.
Better decisions, and not necessarily coming from wanting a piece of what you got.
But that's the thing, and that's where the institution carries the weight. If we funnel it on the institution, it's not about the individual and their collective wealth. So if I go see you in your office, you're like, well, if you walk through my door, you got to pay me X number of dollars. The institution says, wait, we're the institution to give access. So therefore, as you give, when you come in, you have to give as you're going out. And that piece is we just can't afford to be in that space.
Or to keep down. It's been, keep doing that
Right.
thing.
We can't afford it. I mean, and none of us are in a position. You know, I was telling a friend, it's humbling to think that if you took the collective net worth of every black person in the city of Atlanta, everything that they own, from their cell phone to the rings, earrings on, shoes on their feet, the one wealthiest white family in Atlanta could cut one check and buy everything.
By
we own
everybody. Everything and everybody.
and still be wealthy.
Wow.
We just cannot afford to hoard resources or information or access. I want to be in two businesses. I want to be in the readiness business, and I want to be in the access business.
Mm-hmm.
The readiness business says that I'm not going to send Cedar and Garrett to an opportunity they're not ready for.
Mm-hmm.
But once we've gotten them to a point of readiness, then my job is to provide you with the access to fly.
Yeah.
And I think that readiness component is something that we've missed in the equation because everybody wants the shot at the title, but they've not actually done the work necessary to compete
Be ready. Yeah.
and to be ready.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where I really want to focus to make sure, even as I hear what this next opportunity is, I'm sure you'll share it wherever the time is right. But what are the steps? Although you may be passionate and you just want to dive right in, how can we make sure that we set you up for long-term success? How can we make sure that you have the foundation in place? When you're scrapping and doing it on your own, sure, you made some mistakes and you dove head first. Well, as a part of the institution, shame on us if we allow you to just do that and fail hard versus doing everything we can to provide you the kind of resources that set you up for success and long-term success, scalable success. And that's where we want to live.
And you know what? In reading the book,
What's the name of the book? Plug the book.
Herman J. Russell,
Building Atlanta.
in Atlanta.
Yeah.
And
Not
To-
available on Audible yet.
to see how you're mirroring his methodology of success is phenomenal. Seriously, right? So I'm telling you guys, you need to get the book because you'll begin to see that there's a pattern of how he systematically thought through how he ended up going from being a master plasterer to having a significant general contracting company. And it's just amazing. And the access and being able to partner with different people within his circle to say, hey, you know what? No, we're going to do our own project management, our own property management company, and create an arm. No, we're going to handle our own insurance and create an arm. Oh, because of my expertise, now you want to bring me into the financial world, into the banking world, right? And so he systematically kind of went step by step because of the access that you're trying to mimic within RCIE. And it's just, I'm sorry, I'm excited because I see the connection.
Correct.
And when you can see that something's going to happen, it leaves me speechless.
So speaking of access, when we come back, I want to talk about I want you to share, how do people become part of RCIE? How do they get access?
I love it. Of course,
All right.
let's do it.
All right. So we will be back in just a few minutes, or not even a few minutes, 1 minute, with Jay Bailey from RCIE and Eye to Eye.
Fantastic.
Hey, podcast family, this is Garrett and Sita with Eye to Eye, sitting here with our man, Mr. Jay Bailey of RCIE.
Yes, sir.
And Sita, you had a question when we came out the last segment that you wanted.
So I wanted Jay to explain how, because there are going to be several people, how do I get access?
Yeah, no doubt. So, we are fortunate. We are actually really not even fully open. We're still a live construction site. It's been amazing. We're seeing anywhere from 500, 600 people come through our doors every week.
Wow.
And we're not even open. But just like any startup, we want to grow smart. So we have our founding 100 stakeholder companies, of which you guys are part. And literally being able to understand from this 100, as we grow, it's a co-design. It's literally what works, what doesn't. As we start to, I think you got your email maybe this morning or last night around the Pacesetter group. Does this work? Does this not? What segment, what income level, what revenue level do we serve best? Where can we fill in our blind spots? Once we kind of figure out what we're doing and it works, then we want to scale from 100 to 1,000 and literally create this collective, collaborative community of like minds. And think of any given day, there are 100, 200, 300 entrepreneurs in a building talking and building with each other. I mean, it's a beautiful thing to behold and to really shoot for. We want to, just like any other business, want to start off from a strong foundation. Yep. So, I mean, you can do now, if you go to rcie.org, www, do you even have to do that anymore?
I don't think so, because when I pulled it up, there is no www.
So rcie.org, make sure that you're on our mailing list. But while we're working with our founding 100, we're continually doing community events where the whole community is invited. And that's intentional. We don't want to be exclusive because we realize there's a tremendous void and need. But we also want to just be very protective of our growth strategy as well.
Another thing I think is amazing is whenever we go, we actually see the Russell children.
Oh, yeah.
That
they're
is
all
just
in.
like,
Yeah.
it's just like, no, that brother ain't the janitor. He is the
Yeah, no doubt, no doubt. They are all in.
There's like, it is like, wow, because you're so used to seeing the name and not anybody associated physically with the name. But that they're owning the process. Like, look, we're for real. We're real. We're here.
And usually sitting in the back of the room.
Right. But I know the one brother. What's his name?
Jerome, probably.
Yes.
Jerome happens to be the chairman of our board. Donata Russell is also on our board. Michael is extremely supportive. Shout out to Levette Russell out there in San Francisco holding us down from across the coast. Just a tremendous feeling to know that this isn't just for show. This isn't just for recognition. They are literally concerned about community and wanting to do what they can to help build community. This is their legacy to own and to build on. And RCIE becomes a big part of their contribution to the legacy moving forward.
So do you see the concept growing outside of Atlanta? Or is it okay, we're going to get Atlanta 100%, 200% right?
Sure.
Because people are going to come
of course.
Right.
I think that I like the college model for things. You won't build another Harvard. But Harvard has its legs and arms and tentacles, all over the world, with extension courses, continuing education, Harvard business clubs in major hub cities. But the mothership in Cambridge is the institution. I don't know if we could recreate the magic that we have in that 54,000 square feet at 504 in any other city. There isn't the deference and the reverence and the history and the legacy that makes what this is so special. Could we look at ways to expand what we're doing and share some of that access at scale? I think so. But must we get it right at our base first? Absolutely. So yeah, I don't think that we don't think we really have a choice as we grow in scale to provide ways for more people to engage.
One quick, can you drop a couple of the organizations and companies that you've brought into RCIE?
Oh yeah, man, we're gonna have fun. So everybody from SBA, Invest Atlanta, Access to Capital for Entrepreneurs, the Georgia Microenterprise Network, the Atlanta Wealth Building Initiative. I don't have like a collaboration model. I have a cohabitation model. If you're running a company, you don't have 5 hours to go to 16 different locations. So guess what? Let's bring them all under one roof. If you need to see the Secretary of State's office and then run over to Invest Atlanta and then maybe pop up to Access to Capital for Entrepreneurs, you can do it all in one day and one visit. And we'll continue to have that model where we're literally concentrating all of these things that occur in space, but giving people a very clear path and even how to navigate and a warm handoff. Go see Garrett at Access to Capital for Entrepreneurs. Knock on the door and say we sent you. In fact, they already have your appointment set up on their books and they're expecting you. That level of connectivity, that level of access, that level of ownership, like it's in a space where I feel like I have control of my own destiny, is powerful.
That is. I mean, and it's
for real.
It's for real, and it takes time to get used to
that. It's really real.
It's real
because we've had, in all honesty, at least 5 years of BS from different organizations that claim and promise the same thing, and you do this class and do that class, and that. Not that all of them were, but yes, after I've finished the class, then what? Then what happens next? This literally, the 5 months. Has it been 5 months?
Not even that. Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
But whatever.
Maybe. About 4 to 5 months.
Yep.
We've had so many positive experiences, tangible experiences that have come out of just being associated with RCIE. So there is no hot air. This is the real deal, and it did not cost us a $10,000 retainer.
No, and it never will. It never will. I think one of the greatest things was to see both of you, that a post that I made on Instagram about Tristan Walker is what led me to Puff Cuff. And to 4 or 5 months later, to see the both of you on stage sitting next to Tristan.
Bucket list.
Right.
Yes.
But to say it was a bucket list item that we could check off for a company as it grows. It's just, this is just the beginning. We're only getting started. But that was a great moment to see the two of you up there.
It was a great moment. It was the fact that you asked us. We were like, it ain't going. It's really going to happen. He claimed he know Tristan. I just saw him in the picture. It should have been photoshopped.
Yeah, no doubt.
But it was real.
No
it was
doubt.
so real. And even that moment, even though it made him more real, because there's so much. Because I was telling him, I was like, you're the GOAT. To a lot of us, you are the GOAT. And for you to come and be totally transparent about what you would have done differently, or actually what happened for the Procter & Gamble acquisition to come, and the fact that you're still there, but for you to be totally transparent and say, look, all glitter ain't gold.
Right.
And not be afraid to say it.
That's powerful.
And be like,
it changes mindset.
It changed ours. It definitely changed ours. And that was a godsend moment.
And that's the heart of what we're trying to do, to give even him a space where he can do that.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
So one of the last questions, right? So as one of the most innovative, inspirational leaders in Atlanta.
Oh, wow, man.
Right.
No, thank you for that.
What would you tell someone, an entrepreneur starting out, to avoid and to go after? One of each, as they try to progress and start out.
Avoid thinking that you can do it by yourself. Go after opportunities to collaborate and build with others. I guess they're related, but every failure that I've had in life has been rooted in me trying to figure it out on my own.
On your own. About to the Holy Ghost.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, and it's just real. It's, we believe in our ideas. We think they're uniquely positioned and no one else in the world will understand, and no one else in the world could ever help us realize this thing that we believe God has blessed us with. And I think that's just, time and time again, there's a whole 2 other podcasts that I could talk about failures in life and things that have come up short and times that I've not really hit the mark. and it was because literally I didn't trust enough. I think that, my guy Chris Hanks, and I'll give you credit, Chris, this one time, but he talks about hell and the new definition for hell, and how he defines hell is after you die, God showing you what was possible if you only believed.
Bing.
That part was, and it was powerful because it's real.
Mm-hmm.
And that belief part of it, when you talked about some of these things we don't inherit because we don't have rich uncles or people that just snap a finger and make things happen. One of the other things we don't inherit is this deep belief in ourselves and the ability to make it at the next level, because we've not seen a whole lot of examples of it. A lot of people can talk about wealth but can't point to it.
Right. That's been a change.
Yeah.
It's gonna change.
Yeah, I believe in you guys.
Well, Jay, we so much appreciate you. being
No
here.
doubt. Y'all have blown my calendar, so I've already sent a note to my office like, I'm not going to make it home before my next meeting. Yeah.
You know what? This could
It's
all
all
be
in love.
fixed if we had a good public transit system like Air Rail.
Oh, well, that's a whole other conversation.
Right.
Yeah, indeed. I'm not sure they come out here anyway. But no, love you guys, man. I'm glad to be out here. Only a pair like you could get me to hop in my car in the middle of the day to come out to Alpharetta.
We sure appreciate you.
And then go back in near rush hour.
Right.
Yep.
Right.
Yep.
Let's shut it down so you can
Fine.
go.
Right.
Yep.
Well, Eye to Eye family, we hope you enjoyed these jewels that Brother Jay Bailey has dropped on you today, and we thank you for your time, and we appreciate you tuning in for Eye to Eye. And as always, we say,
As we always say, take care
be blessed.
and be a blessing.